executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Should I wait for Dr. Calvin for the superintendent's report?
We're recording.
I could do the Board of Education first, which I do have on the agenda first, before the superintendent's report. Would you like me to do that?
Sure.
Under the Board of Education, the ACTA, Oswego Classroom Teachers Association contract rollover memorandum of agreement, that the Board of Education approved this agreement as presented. Could I have a motion?
Can I just interject for a second? Dr. Calvin is joining. He was on the other link. If you could just give him a second, he'll be right there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We will move to the Board of Education. ACTA contract rollover memorandum of agreement that the Board of Education approved the ACTA, Oswego Classroom Teachers Association contract rollover, MOA, as presented. Could I have a motion? I'm sorry.
I'll move it. Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next on the agenda is superintendent's report. Dr. Calvin?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, good evening, board, and good evening to those who are watching us by way of video this evening. So we have a couple of updates that we'd like to share with you a little bit, but before we get into our updates, we have a couple people who are on with us, special guests who joined us today. I just wanted them to be able to say hi to the board so you get to know who they are. This year, we've got two folks who will be working with us around COVID-19 to support our schools, our staff, our students, our parents. So just great folks who have been really willing to jump in and to help us. First, we have Dr. Robert Morgan, who is our school's physician. He's from Oswego Health. Many in the community already know him pretty well. But he's certainly well-known, but he's also been a great of support and assistance to us. And then second, we have Ms. Diane Ogenberg, who is a senior public health educator from Oswego County Health Department. Diane has not only been available at home whenever we need her, but she was actually on our reopening plan to help put together and construct the reopening plan. So they're with us today. I'd like to just give them a moment to say hi, share a little bit about their background, and just some items that I'd like for you to know as we kind of move forward this year. You will start, Diane or Dr. Morgan, either one is fine to get started.
Diane, you go first.
All right, don't copy me, Dr. Morgan.
I won't.
Okay. Hi, I'm Diane Oldenburg, and as it was said, I'm the senior public health educator with the Oswego County Health Department. So I've been with the health department for almost 30 years. And no, have we never seen anything like this in the period that I can remember anything even close. But I represented the health department as part of the reopening team and planning, sat on a couple of the committees to do that. Our role at the health department is really, again, looking at the public health aspect and the impact of school reopenings in the community and in the county. trying to keep your school communities healthy, and again, knowing how that can impact the community as a whole. So some of the things that we do is really help to interpret some of the state Department of Health guidance that has come out. We're well aware that some of the state ed and state health guidance doesn't always jive, so we do our best to kind of make sense of that and help you all make sense of that. The other big role that we would play with reopening, of course, is the contact tracing and case investigation. So we've been working with all the school districts to get those 24/7 contact numbers, to really get a good list of school nurses to know who's in what buildings that we can reach out to as well, whether it's for just education in general or if we have to do an investigation. And then looking again to do those investigations, working with the school district if there's a case that impacts your school community, whether it's a student or a staff member. And again, to help do that contact tracing, figure out who could be potentially have been exposed to somebody that's positive, and then work from there to, get people that need to be quarantined or isolated in a safe spot to do that, and then work with you all to make sure that people return to in-person education in a safe manner as well. So that's a little bit of what we're doing, times 8 or 9, whatever, however many school districts or schools we're looking at. So,
thank you. Dr. Morgan?
Well, I'm Robert Morgan. I have been a family physician here in town for 35 years, and 2 years ago we joined in with Oswego Health because we recognize that that's where the future is in a larger organization. I agree with everything that Diane just said. I'm hoping, I'm new to this role this year. I've done a lot with the school district over the years. I taught the sex education for 15 years. I covered the football games on the side. I've been a huge fundraiser with the butt boosters over the years. My role now is to try to help push aside any politics about COVID. This is this is how we're going to beat this. This is a Bill Nye the Science Guy moment. And it's consider the following. You're going to wear a mask, you're going to socially distance, you're going to wash your hands. And if somebody can't figure that out, we'll help them figure it out. Because it really is not a political event. Unfortunately, as Diane said, not all of our direction is easy to interpret because there's people who are trying to make it political. The CDC is not the same as the FDA. It's not the same as the governor. It's not the same as the county. We're going to help sort it through and do it from the science. The science is what's going to beat this, and we'll help remind that everybody. This is something new. Last time it was 19, 17, and 18. Lasted 18 months, 670,000 dead Americans. If you think this is not something real, then we're going to get them to the facts. And I think we've done a really good job with coming up with an opening program because we have to learn to live with this virus. But it's not everything as usual. Nothing as usual. And we're going to be we're going to be tracing what's going on. If we have to tweak it, we're going to tweak it. Everything is in flux. But I think you've got some good people on our team. And whatever questions you guys have, don't hesitate to bring them to us. And we'll get a scientific answer, a non-political one back to you.
Great. And so, board, both Dr. Morgan and also Ms. Oldenburg have been already in discussions with us about the year, and they're going to continue to be in discussions with us. We'll be consulting with them as much as we possibly need, and they're there to help us discuss. I want to make sure that I gave you an opportunity. Any questions that you might have for them, I just want to make sure they met you so you can see who they were. And any questions?
sometimes than what we get that information. So a lot of our conversations have been about that timely communication back and forth between us and the districts for that investigation and contact tracing.
Thank you. Yes, thanks.
So I do have a question for Diane. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Is the county working with anybody for any kind of voluntary mass testing?
At this point, we don't have any plans for that, just due to the testing capabilities that we see within our community at this point. We have no plans to do that. We can certainly refer people to where they can be tested if they want to be tested, but we don't have any mass testing plans at this point.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Well, again, board, these folks, I want to tell them I appreciate them in advance. And again, they are really working diligently with us. We appreciate their partnership. And as we move forward, we're certainly going to be working together as a team. And I just wanted them to say hi to you so you would know who they were. You probably know some of them already, both of them already. I just wanted to make sure they said hello. And so I thank you both again for coming tonight. And I think we're all set. So if you want to go home and relax, we certainly would appreciate it.
Another meeting to go to.
Unless you'd like to stay for the meeting, you're more than welcome to do that. It's all good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Hey, take care.
All right, board. So with that said, I wanted to, again, share who those folks were with you. And just to kind of move back into our report, I wanted to let you know that we continue to plan for our reopening. I want you to know that over the last week, we've had a very busy week. We had a number of our parents who actually reached out to us who wanted to change the selection that they actually started out with. So some parents started out with, I'd like to do in-person instruction, and some said, I'd like to do all hybrid. We've had a lot of busyness, and that's really caused us to kind of just rethink some of this as we move forward. And really to be more effective and efficient. What we've had to do, just so what folks will know, is we're working now across our district. We're all one Oswego. And so to make sure we maintained stability and make sure that we had efficient usage of staff and support for students, we didn't want to have one classroom with 30 kids in it, another kid with a class with 8 or 10 in it. So we wanted to kind of be careful with that. And for our kids, particularly who are in virtual, what we've done is we've had to reach across the district lines, basically, and make sure that we have a teacher. So you may have a teacher who is teaching 5 kids from one school and 5 for another, but that teacher is teaching those students virtually. Some of our staff, we know, could not be in school at this time. And so we were able to accommodate them so that they were able to be at home and teach virtually. And so you will see some classrooms like that. One of the things I wanted to make sure that folks understood also is, there are some districts who have actually gone out and said, you have to pick a model and that's your model for the year and there's no change in it at all. We have taken a different approach on that, so we've looked at this legally, and we've also kind of just thought to ourselves, in the middle of a pandemic, if a parent would like to kind of switch back and forth, we don't want to kind of go out there and say, you have no idea this is the way it is, right? What we had to kind of consider and think about is how quickly we can move people back and forth. We already told the public in our forums, some of our plans, if you'd like to change, we will accommodate a change for you, but that it will not be it won't be fast. Right, so just so that people understand, what we're looking at is people want to change, we'll work with you, we'll be flexible, but we're going to be looking at that around the semester break times. So it will take about 10 weeks before we can kind of get you moving there. And the other thing that people need to understand is that we do have space limitation, so we have to be careful. Only so many kids can be in a classroom because they have to be socially distant. And some of our classrooms are bigger in size, some are smaller in size. So there may be a situation that arises where we have a truckload or a group of families that may want their kids all back in person at one time. So what we may have to do, it may be possible that we may not be able to get people in their actual schools, their neighborhood schools, but we have other schools in our district that we'll have to kind of reach and find a way to get people in. But this is a really different time. We're going to have to do stuff outside the box. Again, we are all one Oswego. We want to be efficient. We also want to be safe. So this will be a little different, but we're going to really work diligently to work with our parents and support our students. And if parents want to switch, we're going to work with you, but we just need you to be patient and understand that this will be a little bit different in terms of how we make this come to par for you, basically. So there'll be a letter, by the way, that's going to be going out to our parents, just so that they also, this is reinforcement for them, that if they want to change, we'll work with you, but you got to give us a little flexibility here. Okay, so that note will be going out. Just go ahead, sir, Matt. I want to let you know in terms of technology updates that we have, our order, as we shared in the last meeting, has been placed for our technology. There is still a delay in terms of getting some of the newer technology, not just for us, but across the whole nation. People are just waiting. There was some concerns about getting technology from China, and then there was some concerns about just all the districts who are all going virtual, all trying to get the same technology at the same time. So we are kind of in delay, waiting. We have enough, we believe, to get started with the year. And in terms of our technology, some of our students, our earlier students, are actually going to be using iPads until we get Chromebooks in. Once we get those Chromebooks in, we will be changing those out for the Chromebooks, basically. So we want folks to kind of know that. We've already started to disseminate that information to our parents, but you'll find our early learners, K and 1, who won't have all those skills with typing at this time. We're going to give them an iPad, which we believe will be able to meet their needs at this particular time. In terms of rollout for technology and materials, that will start next week, September 8th and 9th. The high school and middle school will be rolling out materials to those schools. And then on the 11th, all elementary schools, the rollout will be at the high school. And if parents miss a date or can't make it, they can contact their schools directly, and they can arrange for pickup for their individual needs from their schools. And we will be sending another mobile call out just to remind parents of that time before the week's out this week. I want you to know that one of the things we're also working on is bandwidth. So we have received information from our RIC, our Regional Information Center, that there are some concerns amongst the region around bandwidth, and that we're one of the schools that there's some concerns with. What they want us to do is basically, be really vigilant with respect to getting some more bandwidth. There's some concerns about with everybody on at the same time. Will we be able to handle it? To start, we're going to do some staggering with our instruction, but we know that we need to get some additional bandwidth. So we're working now diligently to get that bandwidth purchased. There is a price for it. It is about $13,000 total for us for the upgrade. It is support that we can get through our BOCES. It comes through the REC, so it is aidable. But we know that to make sure that things are smooth, we're going to need this. And it's really not something that we can kind of say yay or nay that we do or don't want. So I just want to let the board know that we're going to have to procure additional bandwidth to make sure that everybody's able to get on virtually. Again, this is not just a Oswego issue, but with all the school districts on, there's now concern, and everybody's kind of looking at the bandwidth piece. Go ahead, Matt. So I had some questions about, just to make sure we're all clear about what we're spending our monies on. So, at one of our recent board meetings, we talked about the cost for the technology, and there was a reserve that the board did say that we could use to take some funds for to make sure we were able to cover our additional technology needs. And I believe Jamie may be on with me. Jamie, if you're there, and Nancy is on as well. Certainly feel free to chime in whenever you need to here. But first of all, just to be clear, the cost for our technology, we are taking the funds from a reserve at this time, and that the funds that we are using, they are the things that we'll be using for technology. Most of these things are aidable, and we have a 77.5% aidable rate. So I believe from the reserve, our expenditure amount that we're going to take, Nancy, can you give me the exact number? I think it was 850 or 60,000. Can you tell me the exact number if you recall that?
865,000.
865,000 was what we had asked for. And so what are we using this for? So we know that we need Chromebooks enough to make sure that we have enough for all of our students. And at any time, we know that some parents have an issue with their Chromebook or their technology and may need them. But to make sure we have equity and access for all kids, we know that we needed extra Chromebooks. We also have some Chromebooks that are kind of going down and some technology that needs to be replaced. So we needed $22.50 in terms of Chromebooks. The unit cost is $270 a piece. The total amount for those are $607,500, which is again aided. And then we need to have a licensure for those Chromebooks. The licensure was $25 per Chromebook, which brings us to another $56,250. And again, that is aidable as well. To make sure that the Chromebooks would not receive considerable damage, we did make sure that we ordered the sleeves. It's just like with your phone. You want to make sure that you have enough bounce in there, or something to keep them safe. So we knew that we need to get those, and those are at $16 a piece, which brings us to a total of $32,000. That's also aidable. And then there were some projected fees on top of that. Whenever you get things through BOCES, there are some administrative fees on doing that, and that's at 6%, which is another $41,745, which is also aided. We needed to get hotspots as well. And by the way, the hotspots and the technology, you go into the SED guidance. Those are things that we have to have in place if we're going to be a district that's doing virtual. We have to make sure that we have these things for all of our kids. Access needs to be there. For the hotspots from Verizon, they are $430. You needed 150 of them, and they come at $64,513. Those are now aided. Those are now aided, if I remember correctly. The additional bandwidth is $13,000 total, and that is aidable. And then the last thing that we know we needed for our classrooms, we needed web cameras for our teachers to be able to do the live instruction. We needed 275 of those web cameras at the cost of $11,000 a piece. And I don't believe that the cameras are aidable. Am I correct, Nancy and Jamie?
That's right. The cameras we bought through local funds are not aidable, but I did mess up that slide. They're not 11,000 each, as I'm sure that you could all get on 11,000. Sorry.
Thank you for that correction. So the total right now, so we asked for over 850,000. We're at 826,000 in terms of what we needed to get this to run appropriately. And again, that amount, the amounts that would be aided is about 750,000 of it, over 750,000 of it, and it's aided at 77.5%. Any questions on that board? Yes.
It's Nancy. I misspoke. It was $823,000 in the transfer.
823.
Yes.
823.
Mathis, I did have a question for Nancy as well. When in the cycle would this be aided? We lay out the money.
Next year. Yeah.
And when would it be? Next year it would be aided back. And then also, we're assuming it will be aided. Could that be a section of the aid that is held back? That's a state aid portion. Could that be would be removed? We wouldn't.
Sure. So at the time when we did this, there was no talk about the additional 20%. So yes, we are assuming that it will be all aided back, right? And right now we have heard, as you know, we're going to get into this in just a moment. The governor is withholding 20% aid at this time. And that's dependent upon what happens at the federal level. Nancy, did you want to add anything else onto that?
No, you said perfectly.
Tom, did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah. So we're working on the assumption as if, but we don't know for sure. So we could pay a larger portion of this. Oh, the other question is that was for the quantity, and we're getting these in bunches, correct? We're ordering, and then they're going to be coming in. So we will actually see how many units as we go along, that we actually need, correct?
We've ordered them all at once, but what we're saying is, hey, if you can't get them all to us at once, can have them, but we don't need them just for now. We need them for the future as well. Just to be honest with you, so many districts are much farther ahead than we are in terms of one-to-one technology. And certainly COVID-19 has taught us all that we kind of need to be better prepared for the future, right? Nobody's perfect, no judgment, but we've learned a lesson that we really need to make sure we're prepared. We do need the 2250, not just for, make sure that all of our students have them, but we also have some, we need to make sure we have enough for our staff, so that they can do the work that they need to in person and at home. And so when we did our numbers, please understand, we made it so that we had more than enough for every student who would come to our district, all of our teaching staff, and if things start to break down even more, we'd have a couple extra on the sideline that we can put in. So this is not really a wish list. This is truly what we needed to make this work and make not just currently, but in the future. And also, we don't know how long this COVID-19 piece will last. So we have to make sure we have everything that we need in place to make it work and work smoothly.
Sure.
Hope I answered your question.
How many students in the district have requested Chromebooks?
So as of right now, I believe we're at like almost 2,100 or 2,200 as of now. Keep in mind that could change. So we have some parents who may today say, I don't need anything. And we can't just get that number. We have to have more than enough if they change their mind and say, I need to have access. We have to make sure that we have those there. And again, much of what we have is old and needs to be upgraded or changed out. So we got the number that we felt we truly needed to have.
I have a quick question about the Verizon hotspots. Jamie, are those unlimited hotspots, or is it gonna, do they have so many hours that they can use?
No, we decided Verizon on purpose because I looked at a couple vendors, and based on coverage in Oswego County, Verizon appeared to be the best. And Verizon, what we got is unlimited data. One of the other vendors I looked at had a limit so that kids could be learning, and then all of a sudden they hit the limit, they wouldn't be able to connect anymore. So that's why we decided to go with Verizon.
Thanks.
So, luckily we didn't have as many parents who needed the hotspots, but we know we have needs in terms of the Chromebooks for sure. We know we needed that. So that's what we got. Any other questions from the board around that?
I have one.
Go ahead, Pam. Go right ahead.
Nancy said the transfer amount was 823. So there's the other 3,000 was already in technology budget.
Yes, I use local funds for the web cameras. That we do have equipment funds every year, and because of the transfer, we were able to shift some things. What I would normally buy with devices, I was able to allocate for those web cameras.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And on our next screen, go right ahead, sir. All right. So we also want you to know that there is one additional cost that we have learned of that has come, and that's really a cost for insurance. We have not gotten this as of yet. We wanted to just share with you about it. So for we have some current devices and we have some newer devices. One of the things that we are thinking about is, do we want to insure these devices, right? So we're expending a lot of money for the public's, from the public. We want to make sure that we secure what we get. So they do have an insurance piece that's on them. The total for the insurance is $147,000 if we were to insure them all. Nancy, can you talk a little bit more about the insurance, please?
That Jamie actually did the research on that, so he would be better qualified to answer that.
Go right ahead, Jamie.
We looked into the idea that if these devices go home, we did get some of them back broken as we sent them home. So it was the idea of what would happen to those broken ones. We can try to repair them, try to fix them, which I do have a great staff that does those things. But when we're talking about 4,000 devices that our district would have, it's the idea of numbers, essentially. If we have a large amount of broken devices, we would not be able to fix them as quickly as we would need to supply them back to kids. So we did not move forward with this quote as far as I know of. I think right now we're kind of looking into this, and you can see the bottom 85,000 was that's an estimated number based on what we are quoting out and what we're looking for. But together, we're looking at, to ensure all of our Chromebooks would be roughly 150,000, 147. If we were to move forward with it, that would include if we had to ship the device out to a company to repair something that broke. It would incur those costs for parts and labor to fix those devices.
So we've not procured the 147 as of yet. We just wanted to share it with you so the board can just kind of be thinking about it a little bit. Okay, Tom, did you have a question? I'm sorry. Or was that Lisa? I can't remember. I wasn't sure. Did somebody else have a question there? No.
I did have a question about the insurance. Is that an annual cost?
Yes, that would be if we decided to do it. And I know one thing we have to consider as a district, is do we want to do this and how do we want to pay for it? And that's kind of what we're talking about right now.
Right. So go ahead.
I'm going to say, Matt, the only thing I was saying is it seems to be fairly steep. That would be about, I just did the quick math on about 540 Chromebooks that we could buy new per year. Do we think that we would have that much breakage in the course of the year to warrant it? Over 10%? Do we? And I mean, it may be plus it's a year over year. Would we just be replacing on a yearly basis?
So that's a good question, Tom. Go ahead, Jamie.
Oh no, I was going to say that what some of our numbers and what our discussion has been up to this point throughout the summer is it is expensive. The newer devices we'd be buying, it's almost $40 per device to insure per year. Chromebooks are $270 new. It's kind of like, looking at the numbers of how many we got back and how many we got back broken. For a large majority of our families we sent them home to, we got them back in great shape. There were a few that came back. Accidents do happen. So that's kind of one thing that we've been discussing.
And would you have a ballpark idea on that, Jamie, in terms of percentage of, that was returned of numbers that we had? Just try to compare.
Let me see here. I'd have to look up the exact number we got back broken from the spring. I have an overall number handy of how many we had broken on the shelf, but that's actually, it's 60, but that's not how many broke during the spring. It's much less than that. I would say, approximating off the top of my head, it's only about 20 to 30. The 60 number I have actually includes everything from last year, even when we were in session.
And so, Jamie, that was out of about 550 put out. So we're looking at about a 10% rate.
Yep. And that's.
So then if we even handed out 4,000. So go ahead, Linda.
Mathis, has anyone or could we look at grant money that might be available with the increase in the need for technology? Maybe the tech companies have got grants out there. Do we have anybody that can start looking into that stuff, or maybe we should?
We could certainly look to see if there are certain grants that are out there. I would tell you right now there's limited grant money, but doesn't mean there isn't grant money, right? So that's a good thing that we can certainly look at. I think also one of the things that we can come back to the board with this at the next board meeting. I think also one of the things that we can do is just look to see if there's any additional insurance quotes that we might get besides this one, right? But we just wanted to share with you that one of the options that we have is, while we're buying this technology, is to insure it, right? To make sure that if something goes wrong, we're not losing out on our investment for our taxpayers. I just wanted to share with you that and let you know kind of where we're at in terms of thinking. But yes, we can investigate grants and we can look for other options too. Lisa, did you have something you wanted to share? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I did actually have a question about just for the details, or just to make sure that we look into the details of the insurance policy to make sure that it's liberal enough, because sometimes they don't carry, if it gets wet, the insurance policy is null and void. Or just to make sure that if we're going to be spending that kind of money, that it's actually going to be like a liberal enough policy that we could make use of it.
Absolutely. Again, the point is to make sure that we make good on the taxpayers' investment, right? So I would agree. Absolutely. We would absolutely do that. Yes.
So I have a question, not necessarily about the insurance, but just about, are we also investing in, and I may be behind the times here, but software or some kind of protective, I guess it would come in the form of software, so that, they're in the kids' hands and they're not able to access certain things on the web that would be detrimental to them.
Yep. You want to talk about that?
Last spring, we started working with a company called GoGuardian. We did notify parents as we signed out devices in the spring that we were utilizing that platform. And GoGuardian essentially works by their Google account. So no matter what Chromebook they signed into, whether it was district owned or not, the way a Chromebook works, a student or staff member signs in with their oswego.org email address. And it is basically kind of recognizing with the GoGuardian platform, which we are able to control on the back end as far as content filtering. So all Chromebooks are going to be filtered as they're sent home, and honestly the way that it works with because our oswego.org accounts are the district accounts, if someone was to sign into a non-district owned Chromebook because they're signing in with their account, it would still be filtered for students. As far as the iPads going home, yes, we are also investing in that, and I believe we processed that last week. It was much more inexpensive because of the numbers that we had to insure, but it will allow us to remotely content filter the iPads as well.
And we're going to make sure that when kids go on their Zoom or Google Meets or whatever the platform is, they have to come vis-a-vis their oswego.org Google account.
That is the district's expectation, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, board, so we'll come back around the insurance, but I just wanted to give you a heads up a little bit about it in terms of what our thinking was. Everybody okay? Okay, all right. So just a couple other things I want you to know is that one of the things that we're going to do this year that's a little different from last year is we're going to also offer some weekly instructional technology broadcasts. The goal is to help families with technology usage, and we're going to start this as we begin the year. So it's going to start airing September the 11th at 5 o'clock. It's going to be available on YouTube. And basically, through these broadcasts, what our goal is to do is really to help families and kids with any technology issues they might be having. So parents will be able to go online and submit questions, and then there's going to be there's a virtual learning website that they can submit those to. And we're going to answer those questions in live time for our parents and do some demonstrations. And this will be kind of looped as we go throughout the first couple of weeks here of school. And the goal is to make sure that we're providing some education and support for families. We heard loud and clear there were some challenges with trying to get on and how to access the platform. So this is just one thing that we're going to try to offer to help support our families and our students, basically. Okay? Go ahead, sir. And then the next thing I want to talk about was really two of our staff positions. So, tonight we have on the agenda 2 positions that we'd like to have approved. One is an OCTA position, the other is a CSEA position. We talked about these positions back in August 4th at that board meeting. One is an instructional technology specialist that would provide support for teachers, for staff, for families, professional development, any kind of supports that folks might need, troubleshooting. That person will be there for those kinds of supports. And then the other is a technician position that will assist with new requirements relating to Ed Law 2D and Part 121, and also provide support on the new platforms purchased for the year, and cross-train also on platforms. And any technical issues, this person can also assist with that as well. So last year, with just 550 kids on or using our equipment, and also additional folks who aren't using our equipment, there was some difficulty. And it was clear that we needed to make sure that we made this a little bit better for families and a lot smoother. So we really do need the help now that more of our folks are going to be on even more consistently. And so we are asking for these supports, and they are on the agenda tonight. But I just wanted to share with you what those positions were and how they would work this year. Any other questions people might have about those positions? Okay, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Pam.
It can wait until discussion at the board meeting for this.
Okay. 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 Wanted to let you also know that in terms of PPE, we have started to see the PPE arriving in our district, which is great. We have a lot of it that's coming in. These sometimes bunches of it comes in, and then big loads are coming in, but we do have our PPE that is arriving. We do believe that we'll have enough to make sure that all of our needs are covered as we return safely back to school. And we do not anticipate any, real delays with respect to the PPE. Technology is where we are looking and seeing the delays at this time, not the PPE. And just also, I wanted you to know that one of our additional administrators will also be having some time that she's going to be helping out with the hotline and with the coordination team. So right now, I think at our last meeting and the meeting before that, I shared that we are putting in a new COVID-19 hotline, and we're also going to have a coordination team. So Dr. Duffy is on that team. Mrs. Chamberlain, one of our school nurses, who's the director of school nursing, is on that team. We've also asked Rhonda to help out with manning some of those phones and supporting wherever needs are in our school. So she, in addition to her duties, and really all of them have other duties, we're all just going to work together to try to help and make sure that we're supporting our families and our district. Want to let you know that there'll be some additional robocalls going out as we move forward over the next couple of days. As we approach school, we want to make sure that families are being communicated with even more than probably we have in the past couple of weeks. So there'll be a bunch of robocalls coming out with a variety of topics ranging from technology rollout to the first day of schools, information that we have on our website. Our goal is just to make sure that we continue to communicate with our parents. We have some videos that will also be finalized before the week is out. And what we've done is we've done two things. We've done a video that kind of just talks about universal precautions like wearing a mask and social distancing. And then we've done another video where we've actually taken several students and we've recreated what it will be like in the life of the student now when they come back to school. And we have some of our administrators, some of our parents and students on that video. Those videos should be hopefully completed by Wednesday or Thursday of this week, and then we'll be rolling those out to the public, and they'll be on to our webpage if you'd like to go there and see them. And then we're continuing to post information on our website. And I also wanted to mention one thing in terms of our community forum. So we've heard that from some of our public that they would have liked the public community forums to be spread out over a couple of days as opposed to just one day. We certainly received that feedback, and we want to thank our community for the feedback. I'd just like to share that we tried to do them all on one day so that people could come on and see those at one time rather than trying to spread them around. And also we tried to make it so that we can get people in at different times. We know folks have different work schedules, different obligations. So we did a forum in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in the evening. But certainly we've heard from our public, and we'll work diligently to figure out how we might continue to make this better if we, when we need to do additional forums in the future. So I just wanted to share that as well with the public. Go ahead there. All right, any questions before I shift down to capital improvement for just a moment?
Yeah, just a quick one on the K-6. Do we have an idea on how many K through 6 have asked to be all remote?
I don't have that number with me right now, but I can certainly grab that number. I'm not sure, Carrie, do you have that number at your disposal right now? I don't have it right now in front of me. But we can get that for you, and I can check that number.
That's fine. Just the question as I'm thinking about all the different things.
Sure, but I would say, so as of when I checked, I believe we were at about 47 to 48% of in-person, and then the rest were remote, if I remember correctly. So it's almost about 50 to 50. Am I correct? Or is it the opposite way? Opposite way, excuse me. So 48, nearly 48% remote, and then the rest are in person, 50% in person. 50% plus in person, excuse me.
Yeah, I can get those numbers too.
No, just a rough estimate's good. Thanks, Carrie.
Okay.
All right. So I just wanted to share with the board that we are also just shifting gears. We're continuing to move forward with our project. Our bleachers are now being installed at the new stadium. We had some challenges over the weekend. We want to thank the public for sharing with us that some of our bleachers were having some issues, but they're all secured. Things are in a much better place now, but they are now being installed. You can go by and see them really going in at the new stadium. The stadium's driveway is being blacktop with a binder top. In terms of our school buildings, work is continuing to be done. So at the high school, any of our hallway areas will be done this week at the high school. The locker rooms, the bathrooms, choir and practice rooms will not be done in time for school, but are going to be being worked on as we continue to move forward. At Layton, multiple classrooms and bathrooms and the main hallways are almost complete. The team locker rooms will not be done in time for school opening, but will be under construction as we begin the year. At Fitzhugh Park, the roof is complete at this time, and at Kingsford, the roof is being completed, and it should be done within the next 2 weeks. At the middle school team met, by the way, to complete their design toolkit. There were teams of teachers who kind of shared together as teams, and helping to put some emphasis or some input rather into the design process. And the results from that toolkit was shared with the architect, who will now be tabulating those results. And then we will be coming back and sharing that with the stakeholders, and certainly we'll be sharing that with the board, so you can see how that toolkit basically kind of came out once completed by the teaching staff, basically. Nancy, anything else you want to add there at all?
Just two things, Dr. Kalman. The press box is going to be delivered this week, so that's going to be real exciting to see how that finishes out the bleachers. And the scoreboard should be installed within the next week or two.
Okay. All right. Any questions on capital improvement? Kathleen, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
I do. Just my son lives down near the high school now, and the other day, I guess Sunday, when we had a lot of wind, and I missed the beginning of the facilities meeting the other day, but it sounded like the bleachers weren't secure. And I mean, was there damage from that? I mean, he said it was pretty loud.
Go ahead, Nancy.
That night, as soon as I found out about it, I contacted Peter Marcinison, who is our construction manager with Construction Associates. He called the company. They came down that night to resecure the bleachers. Some of them, they had to actually take down the panel because it was bent. So those are going to be replaced, but they didn't have any on hand to do that. So they will be coming in, but everything has been secured, and they're taking care of anything that was damaged.
Thank you.
Also, I just want to add in that basically it wasn't secured, but the rating on the bleachers when they're done will handle a much greater wind load than we had in that little episode, because I asked about that the other day, because I didn't think of that as a big windstorm. It could be a lot more severe, and it's rated to withstand winds much higher than that.
Right.
Okay, any other questions about capital improvements board? Okay, we'll continue to keep you abreast as to what's happening with our improvement project. Okay, one more slide I have for you, and that is about the 20% reduction of aid that was alluded to earlier in the discussion. So as of July 2020, it was reported that the state is facing about a $30 billion deficit over the next 2 years, and that's really in part due to the pandemic. And the governor said that the State Division of Budget is anticipating, at that time when they started sharing about this, a possible 20% cut on education, hospitals, and local governments without aid from the federal government. So a lot of reliance and hope is really that the feds will kind of kick in some funds, and if not, the governor projected a 20% reduction. The state, we know, has already begun to withhold that 20% of our state aid allocated for the last fiscal year. We anticipated that our future aid payments will be reduced by this percentage as well. So the 20% of our 2020 and 2021 aid would result in, for us, in a potential loss of $7.1 million, which is quite a bit. So originally when this discussion started, there was discussion that it might be just on foundation aid. However, now what we're seeing is it's not just foundation aid. It's foundation aid, it's food, lunch program aid, it's transportation aid, excess cost aid. It's across the board, which has certainly been a surpriser for, I would say, pretty much every district. That's what we're seeing right now. So the state is withholding that 20% at this time. We've seen that for sure with the food service and free and reduced lunch areas. In terms of a concern, just so you know, one more thing that we've heard about as of this morning. Yesterday, there was some additional guidance that came out from the state that said, for those families that need free food, basically schools are now asked to, give it to students regardless of whether or not they meet or don't meet the criteria, or they do or don't have information filled out. If kids come and need food, give them food free of charge up until December 4th. So we understand. We don't have a problem with making sure that kids are fed. That's really important. Why I'm sharing this with the board is because we need to understand that that's an additional cost that we are now going to have to incur. And that came out of kind of like no place yesterday, the school districts. And so just another cost that we need to think about. So at this point in time, we are unsure if the reduction will be permanent. We don't know that as of yet. We're waiting for guidance from the state. But what we see right now is they're at least holding 20% and giving at least 80% at this time. Nancy, I said a lot. Did I miss something there? Do you want to add anything else, add on to that as well?
No, Dr. Calvin, you said everything. We didn't miss a thing.
Board, your questions or thoughts about this?
Yeah, I have a question about the free and reduced lunch. Was the guidance that came out last night because of they don't want students bringing in food from home, or is it to ensure that, so it's not like a public health concern about having food come?
No,
okay.
no, it's really because, you know, some families are able to fill out paperwork and some aren't right now. You know, and some people have been relying upon, you know, unemployment benefits, and with all that stuff going on at the same time, the last thing that, you know, the governor, I think, is thinking is, you know, we don't want to deny any kid food who really needs to have food, basically, which again, we don't have a problem with. We understand that. But we just, you know, certainly we care about our kids and our families, and want to take good care of them. However, we just want to make sure that the board knows there's additional costs that we had not projected for with respect to that as well this time.
Mathis, do we need to do a letter campaign or something to our politicians for that? We need the federal money. We need federal aid.
That always helps, right? That certainly is a good thing. In fact, you know, if the board wanted to do a letter together or jointly, you know, to local, you know, Congress folks or, you know, federal folks, state folks to help, that would be great. I think that would be wonderful. Certainly, I know our group superintendent is interested, but that always helps to hear from the board. I think it's a good thing.
Not only that, but how about our community? I know that those few years back when we had the horrible reductions in our, because of the budget was so bad, that the year we had to cut the sports, the home and schools were they were key in a letter campaign.
Yeah, right. And, you know, so I would certainly focus at the federal level in terms of where you write your letter. But, you know, one of the things that you might want to do as a board is certainly write a letter, but you may also want to reach out to other boards and maybe do something jointly. I think any form of advocacy certainly will help. And I also, just so you know, I will certainly be advocating to the greatest extent possible with our federal folks to try to get, you know, any relief that we can. A lot of this issue really, it's coming from the feds. If we can get the feds to kind of get it kind of together, it starts to flow down. And that's the problem. The states are not getting support right now. And it's certainly, we can see it now at the local level hitting.
Yeah, well, even the Onondaga County was saying, you know, he's looking to lay off, 250 people. The federal government has got to step up and help every community, every state. But if it's a campaign that they need to hear from us, I guess, you know, we need to kind of take that on.
Pam, I sit on the Oswego County School Board Association, and I certainly at our next meeting will go back with your suggestion.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Linda.
Mathis, I'd just like to take a moment too for people that are listening, just to know that you're working on that contingency budget relative to the cuts, and that's how we process it. And it's an evolution too, as we evolve into this, you know, new frontier, what's going to be, what we're going to need and what we don't need, and whether we stay remote or we don't stay remote, but that you guys are working on that budget.
Absolutely. So we are certainly planning for every contingency that could occur, right? And the administrators, we met today. We will continue to meet and looking at how might we respond if this is the reality that we face, right? And so we're working on it. We don't have final answers as of yet, but we are certainly working on that. And our goal is no matter what we do, whatever we do, we're going to make sure that kids are safe and sound in school, and our staff as well, that we provide a high quality education, and that honestly, we make sure that kids get everything that they need to the greatest extent that we can. So how we do that, it's a work in progress right now. But we will certainly come back and share that information with the board. We will look for advice from the board and what you're thinking, and we'll take it one step at a time. All right?
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. Calvin, I had a question about the feeding sites. Are we still doing that for our middle school and high school students who won't be in the buildings?
Yes, we are. Yep, we will still be providing food for all kids, because we do have some kids who are on full remote. So at all of our sites, we will be providing food for our children. I know that some of the sites will have things bused to them. Am I correct, Nancy? I want to make sure I'm saying this right.
Yes, we're working on a plan right now to possibly deliver breakfast and lunch to the high school and middle school students. We're still working on a plan for the elementary students when they're not in school and they're remote. So we're still kicking around some ideas on that, and hopefully we'll have something that by the end of this week.
Yeah. But the goal is, yes, at all of our sites, we want to take care of feeding our kids. We'll get it done. Okay. All right, board, any other questions on that? So that is to be continued. We'll be back. Okay, so with that said, that's my report for this evening. Thank you for your time and your patience. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Mathis, can I just ask a question real quick? Because I know the high school schedules came out, just because it has to do with reopening. The high school schedules came out. What about the parents with CTE that their kids are supposed to go to BOCES? There was no information given.
Yeah, that is coming. My understanding is that BOCES is still working on a couple of things. In fact, I spoke to the director for CTE just this morning, and I know that they're still working on a couple of things. But I think what we're seeing is kind of what we just had happen last week with our elementary students. Parents are switching their minds, switching programs, so it's causing a little bit of last-minute delay. But I know that they're working on that, so I would say that parents should receive those fairly quickly. I will check on that tomorrow, but I believe that those will probably be available by week's end. So I certainly will let the public know that. You know what? I'll send a robocall out and make sure that parents know that as well around CTE.
Thank you. I just had parents ask me about it, that their kids are enrolled and just don't know what's going on with it. So thank you.
It's no problem. Absolutely.
Okay, next on the agenda is the consent agenda, items A through F. Minutes of the regular board meeting of August 18, 2020. Committee on Special Education Board Report, September 1st, 2020. Oswego Middle School and Oswego High School extracurriculum activities, July 2020. Treasurer's Report for July 2020. Capital Project Change Order Issue Report. If I could have a motion.
Move that.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next is curriculum with Carrie Class.
Hello. I have only one item, that the board approve new textbook titles for instructional use. They will be used at Trinity Catholic School, one social studies, one science, so that they may use the NISTL money.
Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed. Next is personnel with Dr. Sweeney.
Hello. A, support staff retirement, Francis Cogswell, transportation. Whereas Francis Cogswell was employed continuously by the Oswego City School District from December 18th, 2002 until September 1st, 2020. And whereas Ms. Cogswell admirably served the students and staff of our school district with her full commitment to her responsibilities as a school bus attendant to work in partnership with fellow employees and with her full service and dedication to the best interests of all students of our school district. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oswego City School District hereby recognizes that the service of Ms. Cogswell was an asset to the students and staff of the Oswego City School District, and we express gratitude and sincere appreciation for her 18 years of service.
Motion?
Move it.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just like to
All in favor?
thank her for her service for 18 years.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to do B through E together. B is a resignation, Rory Malone, assistant principal at the middle school. C, 2 leaves of absence, both teaching assistants. D, a probationary appointment for Nick Little, instructional technology specialist. And E, probationary teaching assistants, 2 teaching assistants, 1 at KPS and 1 at Riley.
Motion?
Move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Pam.
I'm just curious as where are we paying for the instructional technology specialist? Because it's unbudgeted, so how are we covering that cost?
We do have a budget line that we're looking to switch from. Nancy, you want to share that?
Sure. I budget every year $150,000 for a tax anticipation note in the event that taxes are delayed to help with cash flow. We haven't had to use it in the last couple of years, so that's where I'm going to transfer the money. If the board approves it tonight, I will bring that transfer at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I just had a question. This is a temporary position just for this year, or is it a permanent position?
No, this is a, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Heidi. Go ahead.
This is a probationary appointment, and just a tip for everybody, how you can tell is that there's an effective and a tenure date. If it was a regular sub position, it would say for the 1 year and the 2021 school year.
Right. I just hate to see now Nick will be working in what capacity with this position in terms of how will he be interfacing? I just think he's a wonderful teacher, and I just hate to lose him in that capacity. Just want to know how he'd be working.
So he'll be working out of the Ed Center, but with teachers, parents, providing PD. I think he's going to bring a lot of his personality and his skill set to this new role. But as we always do, we'll be bringing forward a leave request from his classroom position at the next board meeting, should this get approved tonight, just in case he tries it out, for a year or two and decides maybe he would prefer the classroom.
And so are we posting that position to hire a sub, or do we have someone that we're just going to pull in from like an AIS teacher or something like that? How is that happening?
We would post that as a regular sub for the 2021 school year, because currently all the folks who might be like in an AIS position, they're all based on needs of student scores, and Carrie can maybe talk a little bit more about that if she wanted to add anything else to my summary of AIS allocation.
He's also right now, isn't he a technology teacher? Am I correct?
No.
What is he right now?
He's at Hugh Park.
That's correct. My apologies.
And congratulations, Nick. He just had an absolutely beautiful little baby boy. And his wife teaches at Monroe.
Oh, congratulations to the two of them.
Sorry. Do we answer Kathleen's question? I just want to make sure.
Yes, we did. Yeah,
Okay.
I wanted to know if it was posted, and it's going to be a sub position. So thank you.
Lisa,
was this position posted or?
Yes.
Not?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it was
Okay.
posted. Yeah.
I believe it's in the August 17th or the August 12th transmittal, the posting of it, if I remember correctly.
I have just a procedural question about for Heidi, I think, about the tenure and probation. So if someone already has tenure and has done probation in their position, when they move to a new position, does the clock start over, or do those, I'm assuming like prior years would count?
Well, they do normally, but we're in this weird unknown of the COVID pandemic in that the state gave us some guidance about APPR and tenure, but they haven't given us additional guidance about whether or not this school year we'll have an APPR rating and if it will count towards a year of tenure. They've said it likely will, but until I know for sure, I would rather go with the conservative 4-year. And I always work with teachers, if we can reduce tenure based on tenure law, we send an updated letter to them.
Thanks.
So, all in favor?
Well, a quick follow-up to Tom's question about probationary or temporary. This position is specifically COVID related to the technology aspects that we absolutely need to help take care of. This goes away at some point. If COVID does, it will at some point be a different world again, hopefully back to normal. Will this position still be necessary?
So go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Calvin.
I was going to say, certainly we have a current need right now. It really depends, like in terms of what happens in the future. It's hard to project at this point in time. I don't know what things are going to look like even a year from now, depending on this pandemic. So there's other teachers at the other end who may be closer to moving towards a time to say, thank you, I'm done, I'm ready to retire. So that one may be the one that goes, and this one may be the one that kind of stays. It really depends. It's really hard to say today that next year this position will be gone. I really don't know what next year will look like. We'll need to spend time planning on that, kind of figure that out. I hope I answer that. Heidi, did you want to add something else as well? I'm sorry.
No, that was what I was going to say too, that we have this need now. We've seen wonderful, I guess, return on investment in our other instructional technology coach, Dan Rupert, and I would imagine Nick is going to bring that same value. But certainly we would evaluate as time goes on.
And honestly, that's not just with this position, Joe, it's really with every position. We need to kind of look to see what do we need from what don't we need. And if there are things that we need, we try to keep them. If there are things we don't need, then we don't keep them, right? But we do something different, right? Or there's sometimes a time we just have to discontinue things. So I just want to keep that at the forefront too, that every year with all positions we'll keep looking to see what our needs are and kind of go from there. Does that make sense, Jen?
No. Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually didn't know this would be the second position. So in learning about the position, so this would be our second instructional support person across campus?
Yes.
Across the district?
Yep.
Yes. And just so you know, typically in a district with 4,000, there's a lot more supporters than just 2, because that's a lot of people for 4,000 to be kind of coaching and supporting in addition to parents and folks. So we're going to start small and see how this works, but it's really light, to be honest with you.
Are we able
Pam and then Kathleen?
Are we able to use our librarians as also support staff, because they're all in the technology? I know when I was in home and school, that Arthur, the librarian, was the first person we went to.
Librarians are certainly media specialists, and they can certainly assist us with some of those things, and they will be working together as a team with these folks. Keeping in mind that our librarians are also instructional librarians, so they support classroom instruction as well. So there's a variety of things. So will they be helping and working together concert? Yes. And Kathleen, I see you had a question?
Oh, no, I was making a dumb joke. I said we're starting little, not small.
I did have one question though. In light of the not reapportioning, using the remote learning differently. So one student may be from one school or another. Are we sure we need to replace that position? currently, or is that being looked at in terms of numbers? We definitely need to replace the position. Okay.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure, because I didn't know if in this process, if, you know, with the remote learning and stuff, if we would be able to accommodate that classroom and absorb those students. So, okay.
Kay, you want to say something, Kay, or no? Are you good?
No, I shook my head. I think, yeah, he did at the school that he's would be leaving from. The in-person is pretty tight at that grade level. So no, we can't shift. We're pretty tight across the board. That's why we're looking at how we could even shift when we do shift.
Right. I was just curious as to, you know, right now with the in-person learning and remote learning, if there was any way that would adapt, we'd adapt to that. But okay, thank you, Carrie.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay, and then I will do F through I together. F is a resignation. Brenda Miyakoshia, food service helper at Riley. She's actually retiring, but because she doesn't have the qualifications for retirement, it's in as a resignation, but she's lovely and we'll miss her. G, a leave of absence. Kelly Storms, 5-hour typist at KPS for the school year. A probationary appointment, a 5-hour typist at Minetto, Alexandra Babcock. She's replacing a resignation that we had a couple of meetings ago. And I, our substitute and temporary employees for this meeting.
Motion?
Move it. Motion?
Tom, your second?
Sure. Yes.
Any discussion?
Just a couple of things. Happy retirement, Brenda. Let's see. Allie, you're going to miss her as the home monitor, I'm sure. And down in the substitute and temporary school monitor is Darlene Mimi. Isn't she a school monitor?
So we have been utilizing Darlene as our screener here in the morning at the Ed Center in case we have visitors. And so we had to approve her in order to pay her over the summer when she's not typically on payroll.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Darlene, for doing that.
Yeah, she's been a huge help.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we'll move to finance with Nancy Squires.
I'm going to lump A through D. These are normal tax assessment letter or resolutions that come forward every year to the board. If I can just point out that the most important one is, excuse me, I'm just getting a cold. C for the tax rate establishment. Our tax rate on average is going to be $17.91 going out. This is a reduction from what it was from last year, which was $20.19. Any questions?
Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
E is our annual contract with OCO. This is for a runway and homeless advocate position in the amount of $72,462. And F is a contract with Oswego Health that is for staff and student services that they provide us for the 2021 school year in the amount of $51,049.
Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Nancy, I had a question. Just I saw that we were getting the refund or crediting for $15,000 due to the last part of the year, and then I see the amount that we pay, but then I saw the itemized charges. So
those are in addition.
They're in addition too. So we're paying just for basically the general services with that lump sum. And then go ahead. I'm sorry.
What we're paying actually is for the director position at the hospital that oversees everything, and then everything else is a cost per.
Right. I just wasn't sure. Thank you for explaining it to me. I just wasn't sure how it broke down.
and that is the gross amount of the bill. The $15,000 credit that Oswego Health is going to give us for services they were not able to provide us during COVID. That's going to be a reduction of our first 3-month bill.
Okay. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next is the student representative discussion. Zeta?
I have no points to bring up.
I'm sorry, Dr. Calvin, did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned, I'm sorry, Zeta, forgive me. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned before you move out of business, just moving back a little bit. If I remember correctly, Heidi, under the personnel piece, the tech specialist, so tonight the board approved for the AFTA position, the teacher position, but the tech specialist one was not up for your vote tonight because I think there's a civil service piece that we're waiting on, am I correct?
Yes, so I shared in our personnel committee last week that we have to wait on the City Hall approval of the appointment, and we didn't get it back until yesterday, which is past our cutoff for agenda sharing. So that'll come forward at the next meeting, the land tech position.
So when we have the next meeting, I just wanted to make sure I put it out there. That's my, I know tonight we approved one, but just in case, I want to put it out there that will come at the next position. You have to wait for the civil service.
And everything went as we expected, but you all have had a chance, some of you, to meet Nancy Stereo at City Hall and understand a little bit that we fall under that civil service umbrella. And so we have to wait for her pieces before we can move ours forward.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Dana. My apologies again.
Next is the capital project update.
Well, actually, Karen, before we move on to that, I'm going to get off that quickly. Can you let us know how you're feeling about school starting and the virtual classrooms? Have you heard anything from your peers?
Me, particularly?
Yes.
So I would say that a lot of students are definitely anxious about the new school year and how it's going to come up. But I know we're all working hard and, they all have access to these board meetings to come and see what we're doing. Maybe one question that I think a lot of my peers have is the platform in which we are using for virtual learning, because we've seen so many different virtual learning platforms like Zoom, Google Meets, new ones called Canva, and I'm just wondering everyone's position on that.
Well, I believe we're using Google Meets, if I remember correctly. That would be the platform that we're using. It also gives us access to Google Classroom and some of the other neat things that go with it. So we will be using the Google Meets at this time. Great question, though, Zaya. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good question. Yes. The other Zoom we have to be careful with because there have been some issues with people doing things on Zoom. So the security was a concern. So that's why we've decided to go with Google Meets. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Zaya.
Next is the capital project updates.
Well, I don't feel we need to be here and have an update anymore. No, I think that's awesome that Dr. Calvin had put that in with your presentation. If we do that weekly, I actually love it there because it's in the PowerPoint so people can see it, and also pictures can be added to it as well. So unless we see anything more specific, we could remove this from the agenda in the future as far as capital, because if we're going to be taking it through the superintendent's report, and I think it works well there. But I've been relegated useless again. It's all right.
Never, Tom.
Not useless, Tom.
Are you good with that, Dr. Calvin? Because I think it was very effective.
Absolutely, no problem, for sure.
And Tom, thank you so much for all you've done. Keep us up to date.
It's all right. Tom, you're my brother from another mother. We're friends. Hang in there, Tom.
Okay.
Oh, Tom, don't worry. You'll find another job, I'm sure.
Next on the agenda is items from the board. Would the board have any items tonight?
I do. I would like to discuss with you all about planning and scheduling some. We had a great some great retreats, and we learned a lot, but I think we do need to move forward with some calendaring and to be able to schedule time to really talk about our visioning and our goal setting and what tools we're going to use, evaluatory tools. So I was hoping to have that conversation at availability, interest, etc.
You set a date and we'll let you know if we can be there.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Good deal.
That's the thing too.
After 3:30 for me generally is better.
After 3:30. Every day of the week, right?
Yeah, that's what happens when you get a full-time job. Every day of the week.
All right, how about the rest of you? Linda?
I can make myself available.
Okay. Kathleen?
Yeah, the earlier the better, just because it runs into kids at home and whatnot.
Yeah, I can make myself available, so whatever works for everybody.
Jim?
Generally Tuesday, Thursday mornings and Friday afternoons are worse, but so kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings. Okay, and then Lisa?
So I have the opposite schedule of I teach Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Actually, Monday, Wednesday. Friday I could be. I'm pretty open because I'm virtual that day. And Tuesday, Thursdays are more open in general. So I don't know. I mean, maybe the alternate Tuesday to this meeting, but maybe we could start a little earlier because I agree with Kathleen. It's easier to avoid like hungry kids.
Yeah, afternoons are tough for me as well, but it sounds like that's the only thing available for Pam. So,
Heather, I do have personal time available. I would be willing to like do a half day. You know, I'll go to work in the morning maybe and get out at noon. I can do that, and I would be willing to do that because I do think that it's important for us to get together for this.
Okay, thank you for that. Mathis, how much time do you think, just based on your experience, we're going to need?
I would say between an hour to 2 hours at the most.
Really?
It depends on how in-depth conversation you want to have, right? You could block out a 3 hour time frame to be on the safe side.
Okay. All right, then I will work. Go ahead.
It really depends on how much conversation you want to have. So,
And how soon? I'd kind of like to avoid, the week obviously where kids are getting acclimated to school. So it looks like either before or after that time for me. What are you thinking, Dr. Calvin?
I'm good. That sounds great to me. Before or after is great. You give me the date and time, we'll get there. We'll make it happen.
Only because I know my partner at work has some time coming off. So if we do after school starts?
After, okay. Is everybody else in agreement with that? I think we have a lot to do before the 14th and that full week, so after might be more. Okay, excellent.
Heather, is that one we can discuss like the committee arrangements too, or is that a different conversation?
I think we can fit that in as well. Talk about the committee structure, and evaluation tools, as well as our visioning, and really get some concrete dates on the calendar as far as expectations we have for ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll just be in touch by email then with some options. Will that work out?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
Any other items from the board?
Well, I just want to throw this out there because someone had asked relative to our meetings when we would potentially go public again or live face-to-face, but I just want to explain, we don't have a location yet, I think, to accommodate a public meeting. Would that be correct? Yeah. In the sense of how we would be able to do it? Because our current, the conference room at the Ed Center can't accommodate us with social distancing. So basically, when we might look at another location and be able to go public.
Yeah.
Don't everybody jump in. It's okay.
The spaces are under construction right now, aren't they? All of the spots that would be big enough aren't available at this time.
Right. So just to let people know that it's in process, and when we have a space that can accommodate us safely, and we're at that position, then we would potentially go have public again. Into a live? Yes, no? And we can wait on. I'm just having the conversation. I'm not asking for a definitive answer, but I didn't know.
Sounds about right, Tom. I have a great suggestion, the Foundry, and you can provide dinner.
There you go.
There you go. I don't know if we have the bandwidth. Certainly be more than welcome.
I think it is important for us to meet live together as soon as we possibly can. But yeah, we absolutely have to have the space that's going to accommodate not only us, but any of the public that may want to attend if we're going to, because if we meet live, do we not have to have the public with us if they want to?
So that's certainly something that would be up to the board. I think also the one thing you need to think about is access to the meeting and how, if people are coming to your meeting, how you're going to screen them, and then if someone can't participate in person because they get turned away due to a temperature or something, how do we also provide that access for those folks as well, which creates a legal question we probably need to ask session as well too.
Right.
Certainly, it's at the discretion of the board.
Well, I think it's at the discretion of the board and the governor, actually, because you keep changing. So we can reevaluate it month to month. But right now, aren't we still at the limit indoors of 25 people?
I would need to look at that and make sure. I think there's a capacity limit, but I'm not sure what that limit is. We'd have to look to see. I can check on that and get back to you in the Friday memo. Let you know, board, on that one.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Any other items from the board? At this time, does the board need to move to executive session?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yep. Any reason?
Good.
Reason?
Yep.
I can go with what you gave me earlier.
Yeah. What was that? Contract? Was it contract? No.
To discuss the performance of a particular staff member, the employment history and performance, and also to also matters that would impair the public health and safety as well.
Okay. So then I have a motion. I'll move it. Second?
I'll second it.
And would there be a need for a vote after executive session? No. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session. Thank you.